Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new series called Study Stack. Now, the focus of this series is to run you all through various different apps that you can be using in your day to day study routine. Now, the focus of this first episode will be Anki, which I'm sure you've all heard about. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, so here we are on the Anki homepage. Now, it's very easy to get to this page. If you just type Anki on Google, it's the top result. Now, for those of you who are looking through this website, you can read through all the things that they've popped on here. They recently redid the website, so it looks really nice. But if you're just looking to get straight into it, the buttons that are relevant to you are this download Anki button, which is in the center of the page here, and this AnkiWeb button up here. So let's start off by clicking download Anki. Now that'll scroll you down to this portion down here where you can select the version that suits the operating system on your device. Now I'm running Mac OS, so I would download this here. But if you're running Windows, you'd of course download the Windows version. And if you're running Linux on your machine, then you'd get the Linux version that suits you. So I'm not going to be installing all of that today because I've already done that. But for you guys installing it for the first time, it's just like any other application that you would be installing on your computer. Now, the great thing about the desktop version of Anki is that it's completely free to install and use. With the Android version, that is also the case. However, the story is a bit different when we get to iOS. So as you can see here, the iOS version, you have to pay a one-time fee of $39.99 to use it. Now, $40 is definitely a steep cost. But that being said, what's important to realize here is that there's no need to commit to getting the iOS app if you have an iPhone. You can start off purely on desktop, which has every single feature and more, and test it out, play around with it, build your deck, add your cards. And if you think that you would benefit from being able to do your cards on the go, then you can add this on. So that's the first part that we have to cover on the website. So if we jump back here, so hopefully you've downloaded it, installed it. The next thing to make sure you don't miss is this AnkiWeb link over here. So if we open this up, it's going to take you to this website. Now, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you sign up, create an account for AnkiWeb. Now, what's the benefit of doing this? The benefit is that this is what allows you to sync your cards to the cloud so that your progress can be synced across any device that you have. And also, if you do decide to get that mobile app, this is how you can take your cards with you on the go. The other benefit is that if something unfortunately happens to your device, something gets corrupted, you lose some files, your cards would still be safe if you have this set up. Okay, so let's jump into the Anki app. Here we go. So nothing too crazy going on. Now, the first thing that I'm going to be running you guys through is how to create your very first flashcard deck. Now, unsurprisingly, the button that you're going to be clicking is the one that says create deck down the bottom. And we're going to make one for, let's say, biology. So let's call it biology 3-4. And the really cool thing about Anki is that you can create these things called subdecks, right? So that means within your larger deck, you have smaller decks focused on specific topics. So in VCE, you can make your subdecks each unit and each area of study. So let's make a unit 3 deck and let's make it area of study 1. And let's pop in a topic as well. Let's say this is proteins, right? Now you can see the way that you create these nested subdecks is by using a double colon. So that's just telling Anki, okay, I've finished the naming of my first deck. Now go in a level and create that nested subdeck. Now, when I click OK, and maybe what I'll also do, let's pop a 1 here to number this. Okay. When I click OK, it's going to create that Bio 3-4 deck. And if you click this plus button here, there you go. There are your nested decks. All the way down from Bio 3-4 down to proteins. Okay, so we've got the deck made now. What's the next step? It's going to be adding the cards in. So to do this, you're going to be clicking this add button up the top. Now, this looks a bit daunting. You've got all this stuff going on. We're not going to worry about this for now. Let's click on type and let's switch to the basic card type. So you can double click that. Once you've done that, we also need to make sure that the deck that you're adding the cards into is the correct one. So currently it's already pre-selected that proteins deck for me, but if you've made various decks, it might be on something else. So just double check that first. So we'll select the proteins deck because we want to make it in the most specific deck we can. And then just double click that again. Okay. So now let's make our actual card. Let's make this a bit bigger. So let's do something basic. What is the monomer of proteins? Question mark, right? So that's the front of the card. That's what you see. And then you go onto the back field and you type the answer. Amino acids. If I can type, there we go. And once you've done that, you're happy with it, you just click add. And that disappears. Now, the good thing about this is that in one go, you can keep making a bunch of cards under that same deck that you've pre-selected. So you don't need to change these settings every single time. It'll persist. So you can make all of them, and once you're done, then you can go to practicing. Okay, so how do you actually practice these cards now? So let's imagine you made a bunch, but in this case, we've just made one. So you can close this. You don't need this add tab anymore. And here you can see now this proteins deck has this number 1 here, right? So that's telling you that there's one new card that you've never studied before. Now, the good thing is that you can see in all those other decks at the higher levels, they are also at 1. So the benefit of this, let's say you have a bunch of different topics here, right? So you have proteins, you have DNA, you have gene expression, all the topics under Unit 3, Area of Study 1. If you want to study the entirety of Unit 3, Area of Study 1, you can click this deck here to get them all in one go. If you want to study just the proteins topic, you can click this deck all the way under all the nested decks to study just proteins. If you want to study all of Unit 3, you click this deck. And if you just want to study all of Bio 3-4, then you click the outermost deck. So that's the benefit of having these nested decks. You can target your revision to the specific amount of detail and depth that you need to go into. Okay, so let's imagine that we're revising for protein. So let's click on this. Now, once you click that, you'll see the Study Now button. Click that, and here we go. We're in the deck. So this is the view that you see. This is the card we just made. What is the monomer of proteins? So what you're going to do is you're going to think to yourself, okay, what's the answer to this? So you'd be like, okay, cool, it's amino acids. Once you think you've got the answer, you click Show Answer down the bottom here. That reveals what we typed in on the back of the card, which is amino acids. Now, the magic of Anki really shines through in this step that we're about to go through, which is rating your confidence of the card. So let's go through what each of these buttons down the bottom represent. Easy means that you instantaneously recalled the answer. Good means that it took you a couple seconds to get there. Hard means that you had to really put some effort in to recall it. And then again means you couldn't remember. You've forgotten this information. So above each of these rankings, you can see these numbers. They represent the next time Anki will show you this card again. So if we work our way up, if you rated it as again, you're going to see this card again within the next minute. If you rate it as hard, you're going to see it again within the next 6 minutes. If you rate it as good, you're going to see it within the next 10 minutes. And then finally, if you rate it as easy, you're going to see it again within the next 5 days. So you might be wondering, are these numbers set in stone? And the answer is no. With the way that Anki's space repetition algorithm works, the more positively you rank a card, meaning you click easy repeatedly each time you see it, the greater this number is going to become. So it can go up from 5 days to a week to 2 weeks to a month and even beyond that. Okay, so let's finally rank this card. So we found it easy, so let's click that. Bang, there we go. We have now finished all the cards in this deck, and we can go and chill and enjoy our day. Now, if we go back to decks, you can see these numbers have reset. The new card count is at 0, the learn count is at 0, and we've got no due cards. And they'll remain at 0 for the next 5 days. Okay, so now let's jump into making a new card. Let's press add again. And this time, instead of doing a basic, let's do a close, which is actually my favorite type of card because it's so versatile. So let's select that. Let's make the same deck. And you know what? We'll make the same sort of question again. So the way that you phrase your close delete questions will be slightly different. So let's type this in. Let's say the monomer of proteins is the amino acid. Cool. So that's our question. And you can see here, well, it's not really a question. It's more of a statement. The benefit with close delete is that you can conceal portions of this sentence. So what we're ultimately trying to get at is trying to identify this point right here, amino acid. So let's double click and drag to select that text. And let's click this button right here. And you can see that says close deletion new card. And there's also the shortcut there if you'd like to use that. So when we click that, you can see this gets encapsulated in this double parentheses and C1. That's telling you this is your first close delete card for this specific statement. Now, the really cool thing about close delete cards is that you can actually create multiple different variants based on this one statement. So here we've decided to first of all conceal the phrase amino acid. But let's say instead of us wanting to do this, let's say we want to test ourselves on our recall of the word protein. So you can actually do that. So you select proteins and you click this button, that same one we clicked before, and you can see now it says C2. This means this is our second close variant on this statement. And just for completion's sake, let's conceal monomer as well as our third close card. So there you go, C1, C2, C3. Now, as you can see, we've only populated this text field over here, but there's also this back extra field. This is where you'll be popping in any extra content or images that you want to see after you've answered the card. So I've pre-prepared an image here. So let me just paste this in. Cool. So I've popped in this image of a polypeptide chain where you can see, so that this chain is the protein and you can see the individual amino acids. And this is just something that I'd like to see each time I answer this card. So now let's add this to our deck. So here you can see under the proteins deck, we now have 3 new cards to study. Why is it 3? Well, it's because we added those 3 variants of close delete from that one statement. So let's click into the deck now. So here's the first question. The monomer of proteins is the blank. What is it? Well, it's the amino acid. So we'll click show answer. We're happy with that. We found it really easy. So let's rank it as easy. Now this is the next one. The monomer of blank is the amino acid. So here's that second variant we created. So what's the answer here? It's the protein. Show answer, very easy. And then finally, the blank of proteins is the amino acid. The answer for this is monomer. So we click show answer, happy days. Easy. Congrats, we have now finished the deck once again. Okay, so now let's jump over to our final card type that we'll be discussing. So let's go back to the main screen, let's click add, and let's jump over to image occlusion. So you double click this. Now, what is this card type? What you would use this for is situations where you have an image and you want to conceal certain annotations or portions of the image and test yourself on that. So I've already got an image copied to my clipboard, so I'll just paste that in. So we're sticking with the proteins example here. Let me expand this a bit. Okay, so this is a protein, a 3D representation of a protein, and we've got some labels on the sides. Let's say I want to conceal this annotation, alpha helices, and beta pleated sheets, or they've written beta strands here. So in order to do this, you simply click and drag over the portion you want to hide. So I want to hide that, and I want to hide this. Once you're happy, you've concealed all the parts you want to conceal, you click add. Okay, so now we've sent that off to our deck. So let's close this up, and you can see once again, we got 2 new cards. So let's investigate. What are these cards? Click on proteins, study now. Here we go. Here's that diagram. Now you can see those boxes we pre-selected. The one in red is the one that you're thinking about and you expect it to answer. So in red, what do we see? Those are the alpha helices. So you'll think that, you'll be like, okay, show the answer. Cool, that was correct. Very, very easy. And then bang, there's the other one. Show answer. Very, very easy. And there you have it. Those are the 3 card types that you would really need to be using and implementing from the get-go. One thing to note is that each time you add new cards to a deck or you complete your daily reviews, you should click that sync button again so that Anki knows, okay, I need to push it to the cloud. So make sure this is a habit. Okay, so we've made all these cards and we've synced them to the cloud, but where do they actually live locally? So let's close this panel and jump over to the Browse tab. Now, when we open this up, it can look a bit daunting once again with all this information, but you can honestly close most of these tabs. What you actually need is this deck tag or this deck label right here. Under this, you can see that Bio34 deck we've made and the subdecks underneath it. It may be collapsed for you, so it might look like this, but you can click this little triangle to open it up. And let's say you want to see what cards belong in the proteins deck, you can click that and they will pop up right in front of you here. Now let's say you want to make an edit to a card you've previously made. This is the place where you do it. Now what I'd recommend is instead of being on the cards view, which shows you all the variants of every single card, toggle this to be on the notes view, which only shows you each unique card. Okay, so let's edit this basic card up here. Let's say I want to add a little clue for myself. Clue, it has the word acid. And then I can just click out of it and it's saved, meaning the next time I see this card, it'll have this extra text. Now we've made an edit here, which means we have to click that sync button. Now let's say you've made a card. Let's say we're not happy with this one anymore. What do? Well, there's two options. Either you can suspend the card, which is this button right here, toggle suspend, meaning you're just archiving it. It still exists in your collection, but you're just never going to be shown it again. Or if you'd like, you can just delete the card outright as well, meaning that there's no record that it ever existed. I would personally recommend going with the suspend option just so that you have that record forever. Okay, the next thing we're going to have a look at is how you can install add-ons onto Anki to make your experience a little better. So to do this, we're going to close all this stuff, close that. And up here, you can see this tools button. So you click that and you click add-ons. Now this panel will pop up. Now I've installed a couple on my account already. Your one will probably be blank. Now the way you install an add-on is you click this get add-ons button, which opens this panel where you're asked to enter a certain code. Now, where do we get this code from? Well, you can click this browse add-ons button, which will open up. Give it a second. Here we go. This page right here. Now, this is on the AnkiWeb website, and it shows you all the plugins that different people have created and published. Now, what I'd recommend, if I scroll back up to the top, is sorting by ratings, which that is the default. That's how it should be. And that'll give you all the most popular ones. Now, I'll just install Review Heatmap, which is one of the most popular Anki add-ons. So you click on the link, and you can see that this plugin, what it does specifically is that it adds a little calendar to Anki so you can see your streak and how many cards you've done each day. Okay, so let's find that code now. So we're going to scroll past a bunch of information so you can read this if you'd like. But if you just want to install it straight off the bat, just scroll down until you see this box here. So what you need to do is copy this code. So just Control C or Command C. So we've jumped back to Anki now, and you're going to paste that code in this little box here and click OK. So give it a second. It's just downloading. And there we go. Download complete. Please restart Anki to apply changes. So you won't see it immediately. You got to do that restart first. Great. So I've just restarted my Anki. And as you can see, here's that calendar view. And we have been very studious today. We've done a grand total of 12 cards, and you can see that here. And the more that you use Anki, the more boxes that populate, and you can see your progress over time. Now, the last thing that we're going to have a look at on Anki is the settings panel. Now you can see these little settings cogs over here, and each deck can have its own custom settings. What I'd recommend is just go to your main subject deck and click the settings button. Now that'll open up these options. So rename, options, export, or delete. But we're going to go on to the options pane. Now, once again, a lot of information here, most of which you won't need to worry about. What we'll actually do is down in the comments, we'll just pop the recommended settings that a VC student would need to use. But if you are interested in what each one actually modifies, you can click this button, which takes you to the AnkiWeb website, where there's a manual that explains each setting in a lot of detail. So hopefully you guys are all set up and ready to go with Anki. Now, if you're someone who's looking to extract as much value out of the software as possible, we'll be making another video focusing more on the advanced functionality that Anki offers. So keep an eye out on our channel, and we'll catch you next time.